Okay, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. How's everyone doing?
Walaikum salam, ma'am. We are good. How about you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. Thank you very much for waiting, first of all, and the irony of it being that today is a workshop on online netiquettes and whatnot. I am the one who's late, so I really do apologize for that. You guys can see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. We can see that.
Excellent. So who all is here today? I see there's Tariq, of course, the star student of all. He's here. And Zia Bhai, you're here today for the first time. Are you with us?
I guess, Ziabai, can you open your mic? Can you click on the headphone icon on your phone there? I guess he's not able to speak.
Okay.
He's not connected to the voice, actually.
That's right. I see that. That's right.
Yep.
Okay. No worries. We're going to get started. I see there's a chat. Any sound? No, Zia Bhai, we can't hear you. Can you hear us? So then we're actually just going to, you can still see my screen, right?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Okay, perfect. Let's start with today's class then. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today's class is entirely on, oh, he cannot hear us. Can you hear us? No. Maybe try reconnecting. Okay. So we're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of online communication. There's some things that I've been seeing either because I've seen these things take place, or entirely because these are really important to discuss. One of the big reasons why it's really important to go over the proper ways of communication and the proper ways of what not to do with online communication is because most of the people that are using internet and social media is they didn't always use this to communicate, right? This is mostly a newer form of communication. This hasn't existed in, so majority of the people who are using this, especially the generation who's before the current young generation right now, they didn't use this mode of communication prior to WhatsApp or social media or any of the ones that we use. And because of that, there are some concerns and some mistakes that we end up making that we might not even know that we're making a mistake or something. So the first thing we have to remember, one of the most important things we have to remember is that there's a human behind the chat. So we need to speak on as writing chat messages as if we would actually be speaking in real person as well, in life to a real person. This is what we, I think, tend to forget when we're actually just writing out a chat on any sort of a messenger or tool, that there on the other side, the person we're speaking to, it's actually a human. So you don't want to write anything you wouldn't say out loud. So when you're writing something, one thing you need to sort of reconsider is that would you say this if you were actually speaking to the person as well. If no, then that's something that you need to sort of reconsider. Like, is this something that you would be, are these the words you would be using? And therefore, one of the basic things you need to do first is you want to start with a short greeting. And short is the key word, right? So just a salam or just a hello or just anything to acknowledge that this is me, I'm about to speak, as if you were about to, you don't walk into a room in real life and just start speaking. Just like that, you don't walk into a chat room, any sort of a chat gadget, and just start from, where you're speaking. And this takes me to the first point of don't, is don't start with a guessing game. And this means is when you're about to begin a conversation or you're the one initiating a conversation, and this can be a one-on-one conversation, or this can be in a group conversation, you don't just come in and say, hey, or salam, hello, and then just leave it there as if you're waiting for somebody else to respond to your hello. And in this time, people are just sort of wondering, like, are you going to continue? What do you have to say? Because even though it's similar to having a conversation in real life, it's not the same as having a conversation with a real life. So if you come in and say hello, especially in a group chat, you can just continue speaking. You don't need to wait for every other person to say walaikum assalam or hello or hi to you. And then you're just absent, right? That's just playing a guessing game. It starts an awkward beginning. Start saying what you have to say. You need to sort of, you do your introduction, your greeting, and then you get to the point. So you don't want to start with a guessing game. What you want to do, however, is you want to try to keep a very good balance between the length of your message and the volume of your message. So take a moment, right? So take some time in your head, right, to collect your ideas before you sort of just put them out there, right? If you have, people have two specific problems with this. Either you have a problem in you have a lot of short ideas and you need to put them together into one abstract idea, one concrete idea, I mean, or you have a lot of small, you have one concrete idea and you need to break it up into small ideas, right? So you have one big concrete idea and you want to break them apart, or you have many small and you want to put them into one. Those are the basic two issues anyone can have in putting your ideas together. So you need to do that before you speak. So you need, before you start writing. Just because the person can't see you typing, then anywhere where you're typing out a message, your message window on WhatsApp or anywhere you are is not your brainstorming notepad. Because what you're writing and pressing enter, people can actually see it. So that's not where you're going to start brainstorming. These are my ideas and okay, well, someone will understand what I'm trying to say. That's not your brainstorming notepad. You need to do your brainstorming on a separate window, on a piece of paper, wherever you do it. It's not where you, does that make sense? Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions about this point that I just mentioned?
No, ma'am. It's very clear.
Thank you, Tariq. And it's basically very important. And what we call this is chunking. So let's say you have a giant paragraph, right? So you had a whole bunch of small ideas, and now you have constructed them into one idea, but your idea looks like a giant paragraph. And everyone in here can agree that not everyone all the time is ready to read a giant paragraph or, an entire academic article, right? Sometimes you're just on your WhatsApp and you don't need to read such a big thing. So you need to chunk it out. Chunking is making big pieces, right? So you had it's the in-between of your brainstorming and your giant concrete idea, right? So you want to avoid a giant paragraph, right? A giant paragraph. Okay, another thing to remember is more is less. Now, what this means is, especially when it comes to exclamation marks and question marks, you don't need to put 10 exclamation marks. You don't need to put 2 question marks to emphasize that you're actually asking in a hurry, right? So when you say this, it's too much, right? It's not necessary. You don't need to do that, right? Instead, this is fine. We wouldn't do the previous one in writing. We wouldn't do that one in conversation either. To even say, there really is no need to do that, because it kind of takes away it takes away the message, actually. Yes, when you control yourself from not doing this, then when you eventually do it that one time, then it actually makes sense. And if you keep doing it over and over, then it really loses its meaning and it doesn't really make sense. And so this is what you just have to remember, that you don't need to put more. It like more becomes less, actually. It takes away from all that. And then, of course, using the punctuations wrongly. So using the dot, for example, like, okay, so first of all, okay, use 3 dots only. You do not use 10 dots. You use 3 dots to indicate that you will continue. That's the idea of putting a dot. Dot, dot, dot does not mean etc. Okay, so dot, dot, dot does, I cannot type today, guys. I still can't type. Okay, does not mean etc. Etc. means etc. Take it? Blah, blah, blah. Flana, flana, flana. That's etc. You do not use dot. You don't use dots to mean that. I know that specifically if you are speaking from India or Pakistan, then even when we're actually speaking in our spoken conversation, we end up using dot, dot, dot. Like you fill in the rest. That's not really what dot, dot, dot means at all. If you were taught that you were taught wrongly. So dot, dot, dot means continuing. Okay, like to be continued. That's a very important one to remember. And if you want to just, connect your ideas between dot, 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 and then dot, 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 use a comma, right? Use a comma to connect ideas. Now, I'm not here teaching you punctuation marks, as you guys know, but the reason why this point is really important is that you can't use punctuation marks incorrectly. This is to avoid using punctuation marks incorrectly. Okay, any questions on this?
I do not have a question, ma'am, but whenever I see the people using the more exclamation marks or question mark, it shows somewhere like they are frustrated or something like that.
Bilkul. Yes, absolutely. So and maybe that's not what they want to show, right? And maybe that is what they want to show. We don't know. But that's not our job to guess what they want to show, right? And I totally agree with you. So this is exactly where I put this over here. Like, don't start a guessing game, right? It's not, if I'm writing to you, right? So if I'm saying, you have no idea what I mean. Am I excited to see you? Am I upset at you for something? You have no idea.
Yes, ma'am.
So then why should I play a guessing game with you, right?
True.
But usually if I just put one exclamation, it means one thing, like, hey, I'm surprised, or I'm not keeping a straight face, right? And then of course
Yes.
comes in the game of the what do I want to say? The context and who am I speaking to, right? That changes the game a lot too, right? So you are my friend, I will speak to you in a different way. You're my student, you're my brother, you're my father, you're my son. It really changes. And who am I speaking to, right? Who am I speaking to, and what am I speaking about? All that kind of plays into action, and that's just conversation at that point, right? And that's a very,
Yes.
very
Yes, ma'am.
important point. And Tariq, your point takes me to the next point, which is caps lock, right?
Mhm.
This means one thing. It means only one thing. And I'm going to put one exclamation mark, okay? It means you are angry. It's aggressive. It's considered as shouting. And that's it. So when we were learning, punctuation and alphabets, etc., when we were growing up in elementary school, we all learned that caps lock have specific purposes, right? So one purpose would be you have to begin your sentence with it. A proper noun has to be in caps lock, not the whole word though, right? Because even if I'm writing my name, then if I'm writing my name Siddiqa, only my S needs to be caps locked, right? This is okay. But writing my name like this is not okay. There's no reason for me to put it all in caps lock. This does not help focus on something. This does not help on, I want to emphasize on this. No way. This does not help in, this is the point I'm trying to make. This does not do that. Caps lock does one thing, and it's aggressive, and it's angry, and it's considered as shouting. When there really is no thing. And not only me, but a lot of people consider this as a primal sin in chat. This is what it's called. Like, this is really, really one thing that I cannot even emphasize enough. I don't know how many times I can say this, but this is not correct. You cannot do that
But,
unless you're shouting. Yes, Tariq.
but ma'am, I have seen like some people, let's say I was in some company's chat group, and there I saw the person like who was in charge. He usually, like, most of the times he type in all those cap locks,
Uh-huh.
like in capital letters.
Uh-huh.
But like he was not aggressive, which we understand that he is showing aggression. He was making a common mistake. He
Yes.
was trying to show that his message is important by capitalizing each
Yes. Yes. A lot of people, Tariq, do that. Unfortunately, a lot of people do that. And it doesn't make it right, unfortunately. And this takes me back to when I told you, like, it depends who you're talking to. Do you know the person? But if we start, it becomes a big snowball effect. A snowball effect is like, just because you're making a mistake. So if I start writing in caps lock, right, then you will say, well, Siddiqa is doing it. So maybe, she's not aggressive. I can hear her voice. She's not being aggressive. but maybe it's okay if I do it. So then you do it, and then somebody copies you. It becomes a snowball effect. So one wrong thing just creates a really big wrong thing, right? It still
Yeah.
doesn't make it right. And that is the point, because that person who is doing it, right? Because when you read this sentence over here in red, right, it's considered as shouting. You can almost hear the shouting word shout out, right? That is the purpose of it entirely. And at the very beginning of today's workshop, I mentioned that most of us, right? So most of us in our professional lives, so after academic, right? So most of us in our professional lives are those people who just started on internet. It wasn't something that we were taught how to use, to be honest. No one ever taught us to sit, like when WhatsApp came, there was never a class given to anyone saying that this is how you use WhatsApp, this is what you don't do on WhatsApp, etc. Those classes were there, but they were optional. They were not compulsory for anyone. So if one thing could be changed, would an ideal situation that, I mean, could have, would have, we can't really do anything now, but one thing that could have ideally been done is when WhatsApp when these kind of things come out, someone has to watch like a 3-minute video that you cannot forward unless you watch the whole thing, just so everyone gets the message. That would be a
Yes.
very good thing to do, but no one will use that app then, because people around you, maybe yourself and people around you, maybe they'll be like, oh, I don't have time for that, right? So a lot of companies in Canada, what they do is when they join you in their company and when they give you access to their instant messaging and Teams or Zoom or whatever, they actually give you a training, which you have to take. And when you take that 40-minute or a half an hour training, they make it paid. So you get paid for that time. So that's like an incentive. And you have to take it. You have no choice. And then even if you don't listen to anything in that class, right? You sit there, you close your eyes, you close your ears, you don't want to listen to anything. But then somebody can come back to you and say, hey, Tariq, when you started this company, we trained you on this and you're still doing this. So somebody can bring you back on that, right? So there's some established standard way of using something. So this is what happens when you say that I've seen people use that kind of stuff. Okay. Let's go to the next one. It's abbreviation. Okay. Only do this if there is a purpose. For example, I like to use this example, right? There is BRB, right? So this is an abbreviation for I will be right back, right? That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words. So that's okay, right? Because I mean, if it is sort of a casual, and actually at this point, even in professional IM messaging, it's perfectly allowed. Even if you're doing a message with like a company and you're doing like a chat bot with them, some people will also use it on there. It's not unprofessional to use this. But then some people also say K. Okay, this is literally 2 letters. You can just type OK. So why abbreviate K? There's no need to do it. There should be a purpose for abbreviation. And if the purpose is you don't have time to write 2 letters, and you should not even write 1 letter. But BRB has become more of the common thing, right? For example, LOL, even if you're not laughing, has become accepted. It's even accepted in the Oxford English Dictionary, right? But then you can also say ha, 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 but then how many ha's are too much, right? So who decides that? So again, so the key thing in purpose is, what is the purpose? You have to sort of keep in mind that as a rule, are you being lazy, or are you just making it easy? So the question you want to ask is, am I being lazy, or am I making it easy for my reader to read? that is what you have to keep in mind. So for example, I've also seen people do, why are you late? Right? I mean, that's unnecessary, unless it's like your really cool buddy and, you know, you mutually understand that you two are having a private conversation. You can do whatever you want to do. This is more for this, these rules and everything are more for the group chats and in which more than two people are present. Okay. So that's something that you can see. Okay, the next one is kind of ironic coming from an English teacher, but don't stress about typos. Don't stress about typos, okay? Because sometimes is the key word. So I'm not going to put it in caps lock, but I will put it in bold. Sometimes chat is more about speed and not about correction, okay? And in all, I think almost all social media platforms, you can actually edit what you've written. Okay, so it's not, you know, it's not sometimes, unless it's a huge mistake, then go worry about it. But sometimes it's not a big deal, right? I mean, if you spell with like this, so it's not that big of a deal. Look, Word will correct it for me automatically, but sometimes, you know, and sometimes you have autocorrect. So you don't need to stress about typos too much. Okay, but what's more important about that, as a reader, there's no need to point out the typos for someone else. There really is no need. Do you understand? Right? So do you understand? Yes. Well, then continue the conversation. Right? And if you don't understand, you can ask. Right? But I mean, I do a lot of corrections in grammar and spelling, etc., in the group that I call the Al-Mawrid English group, right? So, I mean, that's the whole purpose of people being in there, that if we make a mistake, correct us, teach us the correct way, etc., etc. But it's not my job to do that in a different group, because that's not what I'm there for. That's not my place, not my stage. So that's something that's really, really important. Okay, any questions? I don't want to go too fast, but at the same time, I don't want to miss the points that I have collected.
Yes, ma'am. So actually, sometimes the typos do really make an impact on the message which we are typing. Let's say, like sometimes when we type I, so it's just beside the word letter U. And I have seen that, like, I commonly
Yes.
make this mistake. I don't know, like, but I make a lot of this mistake. So
yes,
the whole sentence, yeah.
And that's just like, you know, and then again, it comes out to as a reader, right? So that it comes out to this, like the person pointing it out for you, and you also, and you can automatically go back and edit it right away, right? You know, we use the even on WhatsApp when we're talking, we do like this, right? And you do that little asterisk and do I, right? You know, and whatever you have to say, right? You know, so so you just kind of correct it on there, and it kind of, you have that, you're allowed to do that, right? So, and of course, with those small typos, yes, take your time, fix it. What I mean mostly by this is, if you understand, and if you're not that language teacher in that group, it's not your space to go and start correcting people's typos and grammar mistakes and etc. etc.
Another thing about that one letter which you just covered, ma'am, this before this point, there was a word like K instead of writing OK. So what does we should actually get from it? Because whenever somebody types me K, so I just guess like he might be he is not agreeing with me, or he's upset, something like that. Despite of, if he types the OK, the two letters, then it shows okay, that's normal. But when somebody types only K, it shows like they are not agree. Is it correct to assume like this?
No, it's not. it's not correct or incorrect. This takes me to my next point, and I cannot spell my next point. It's to avoid ambiguity, right? Basically, what this means is that the sender, right, should aim for minimal. You know what ambiguity means, right? Ambiguity, Sadiq? Ambiguity is vagueness or doubt or not clear, right? So it's the opposite of clarity. So that's why it's really important that the person who's writing should aim not to do that, because it can be considered as sarcasm, confusion, sarcasm, etc. So this is on the sender. This is on the sender because, as you said, then I wonder, are they saying it? Why are they saying this? Okay, what do they mean by that? So if we start the game without ambiguity and being very clear and not being lazy with our abbreviations, we can avoid this confusion and taking the meaning wrong. And this then takes me to instant messaging. I'm having major troubles typing today. Is not equal to instant replying. That's very important. It's so important, right? This can be on WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, anything that you're using. You don't need the other person, the receiver, online when you are sending the message. So for instance, Tariq, if you have a question tonight, and you know that it's really early morning for me, and you're in India and in Canada, our times don't connect. So you send a message to me. When I see the message, I will reply to you. You don't have to wait to message me when I'm available, because just because it's morning my time, and just because it's you see me online, it does not mean that I need to reply to you instantly. This is so important, and I think this is such a problem of the world right now, because we're so used to everything being instant, and then we go and we check, has the other person read my message? Because you can see who has seen your message on most devices. And then you're saying, oh, so you saw my message, but you did not want to reply to me. We don't know what's happening on the other side of the phone. Is the person driving when they saw your message? Was the person just, they saw the message and they were busy, but they didn't have time to reply? Maybe that person does not want to reply to you at the moment. There could be millions of reasons why you're not getting your instant reply, because the purpose is not to reply instantly. The purpose is to reply as a message. Eventually, you'll receive my message. This is so important that I've had many people, a lot of people, say to me, when you have a minute, I want to ask you something. And then I say, yeah, sure, ask me. But then they want the reply instantly. I mean, I have a minute to read your message, but I never said I'm going to instantly reply to your message. So you can send me any message you want. And unless you say, I have to ask you something, I need an urgent reply, or I need some, at work, for instance, I work with really amazing professionals, and they will tell me like, hey, I'm sending you something. This is kind of rushed. Then I know that Netiquette, when I read this, I need to reply to this before I reply to somebody else just saying, hello, how are you? This is a little bit more important. So you have to, again, avoid ambiguity. So be clear. Don't be so ambiguous. Don't play the guessing game. It comes back to all these points that we've mentioned, right? So don't start the guessing game. Don't be ambiguous, right? So You want to do all this, and then the other person knows how urgent you need the thing. But just because somebody's online, or just because it's morning in the time of where you're messaging this person to, does not mean that you're going to receive an instant reply. Next one is, yeah.
It's true, ma'am. Like people have to learn this, because I face this a lot of time. They message me and I'm not able to reply on time, or whatever they consider as the right time to reply.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it raises a lot of problems. They say
it raises a lot of problems. Yes, exactly. And I think the only time you should expect an instant reply is, when you're dealing with like online customer service, right? Because those people who are working there from 8 to 4 or 9 to whatever time they're working there, they have signed a contract for their work that at the time that I'm at work, I'm going to reply to my customers instantly. That's their job. And if you are not an online customer service agent, you do not need to reply instantly, and no one needs to expect an instant reply from you. That is really, really important. The next thing is you need to tailor your level of formality. Just from either this, or you need to tailor your message. Okay, what does this mean? You need to adapt, you need to change it, you need to adjust your message based on who are you writing to, right? Like I said at the beginning of this workshop, that chatting is a very modern thing right now, right? So we need to use proper language. I wish that I could come up with a class or a workshop on what proper language is. But honestly, that's not possible. Okay, that's not possible, because for that, I would have to open up the entire dictionary and go through every single word of the dictionary. And that sounds stupid, and that's how stupid it is, right? So I cannot create a workshop on proper language. What I can do is tell you when it's not proper. So I'm always available if you ever want to contact me on WhatsApp, in the group, outside the group, and ask me that, do you think this would be a proper way of speaking to this person? I need to know who it is, right? Because again, you have to tailor it according to who it's for. Not everyone can wear the same kurta. For that same reason, not everyone can receive the same message for that exact reason. And because chatting is more of a modern thing, it requires a lot of training and restructuring our thoughts and our words and our sentences. Just because that's the way you were taught how to speak or write when you were learning English, that might not be the correct way of using it on WhatsApp in 2023. So that's just one thing. So I'm going to add that here. Okay. So this kind of connects to something else. I'm going to put it in the same place, right? You need to adopt the style also, right, of the person you're of the receiver of your message, right? The person you're speaking to, right? Are you speaking to a digital native? Right? A digital native is, I would say, somebody from your generation, right? I would say somebody from your generation, Tariq, right? You guys, internet is not something new for you. It's something that you guys grew up with, right? So that would be a digital native.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? And then, or are you speaking to a 70-year-old, not because the 70-year-old is not intelligent or the 70-year-old is not qualified or professional, but I'm talking digitally speaking, they're not going to be as up to date with the digital world as somebody from this generation right now, from the generation Z, is that what the next generation is right now? The ones who are using,
Yeah, they call it Gen Z.
there you go, that generation. See, there you go. Because if
Yes.
you were face to face with someone, right, you would keep this in mind. I mean, we hope, right? We hope that people keep that in mind still in this time and
Yes,
age,
ma'am. They
right?
do.
When you're speaking to your grandmother and when you're speaking to your niece, you do not speak in the same way. Because if you do, then your grandmother will be offended and your niece will be bored, right? So you need to adapt your way of who you are speaking to. And in that way, you need to do this exactly the same way with on chat. All right. So the best way is when if you're meeting somebody, or if you're new in a group, or if you're starting a fresh group, or you're talking to somebody for the, you don't really understand the other person very well, or you're still as in real life, right? So the best way is to start neutral. That's the best way to do. You want to start neutral, a neutral tone, and then adjust from there on. Right? So you start speaking to someone, you say, oh no, this person, I need to speak to this person more. Just like how you would do in real world, right? When you walk into a new meeting or a new classroom or a new friends social group, you kind of go in with a neutral tone and you keep, you're careful with, you're learning your environment, you're taking it in, and then you adjust yourself from there on. So that is really, really important to kind of go with the person you are speaking to. A few golden rules because the time is running so fast. So some golden rules about specifically WhatsApp groups. Okay, so these are specific to that. I'm sure there are other apps as well, apply to wherever you'd like to apply them to, but keep to the purpose of the group. Right, it sounds very obvious, but it's really important to sort of remember that, right? So irrelevant messages about other topics, right? Avoid those, right? So keep to the purpose of the group. Therefore, do not spam the group, right? Again, there could be somebody in that group who's a digital native, who's very comfortable with using internet and WhatsApp, and they know how to not save their memes on their phone. And, some people know how to do that. Some people don't. Some people are in their 70s and they're really interested in being part of the group, but they don't really know how to do that. So don't spam because you're just filling up their phone and it might really not even be that necessary, right? If you think something is really cool, send it privately to the person you think is going to be really cool too, right? Okay. So post your messages in single texts or chunks, right? That basically means one idea per sentence. Don't break your idea in two messages, So for example, don't say like this. So this would be a don't, right? I don't need to put that in two sentences, right? Like, hey, Tariq, I heard you were sick. Next message, how are you now? Put that into one message, right? This
Yes.
should be one message. And you don't need to take up two. It's as if you're holding a microphone in your hand. Don't take over the mic. Say what you have to say and then move on. But then again, don't write an essay. But like the point is to ask, I heard you were sick. How are you now? Put it in one message. Don't take so many lines that the person who comes back later to read has to scroll like a million messages to do that. Another one that I really, really want to say, and I really believe in this one, it's also a WhatsApp group thing, is don't don't lurk in a group. Now, what does lurk mean? Anyone know what lurk means?
It's very new for me, I guess.
Lurking is just hanging out when you're waiting and you're just sitting there. You're kind of like stalking, right? You're there, but not there,
Understood.
right? You're there. You're like a quiet. No, there's no such thing as a quiet observer in a group chat. There's no such thing as that. You're in a group. You might not be the most participating person. You might not be you might be an introvert. You might be shy. You might not have anything to say all the time. But I think in a matter of 3 months, there should be a moment at some point in which you want to say something, right? It it don't lurk. Like, you know, if you don't want to be there, don't be. Excuse yourself, leave the group, and don't be part of the group. But keep a time limit in your mind: 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, depending on what group it is, depending on how often people communicate in it. Keep a healthy formula in there to, you know, you don't have to reply to every single message. Please don't do that also. But there has to be something, because I believe in removing people from the group who are just there as stalkers or just there as lurkers. They're just there, but they're not really there. Okay, that's really, really important. Don't have private conversations in groups, right? I mean, if you only want to speak to Tariq, then go separately and have a private conversation with Tariq. Just message him privately and have a conversation with him, but in the middle of the group. And if you're just talking about something just that you both need to be speaking about, don't do it. Don't do it in the group. Where am I next? Any questions, guys? Just shoot them at me. I have a list that I've made and I'm just running through it.
It's very clear, and I guess nobody have a question about it.
Thank you, Tariq. If you
Yes,
don't know, then don't respond with I don't know, right? You know, in a group, sometimes if there's a question that's asked, right, and you might not know the answer, just wait, because the person who asked the question will eventually give you the answer also. This is mostly for people who are running the group, who are maybe the teachers or the moderators of the group, and they ask the question. And now they're in their mind, they have said, okay, I'm going to give them a couple hours or a day or half a day to respond to this. And then if you don't know the answer, then you don't know, then just wait. You do not need to say, I don't know, right? You just have to just wait. You don't have to reply. Yeah.
I guess there the people have to use the common sense, because it can be something like you post some question in the group, and if a student don't know and he doesn't reply as well, so either it will be considered as inactive, or
Well,
if he
it depends for how long. This would be a rule to teach a teacher. If, as a teacher, like in the English group, Tariq, if I ask a question, right, and then you haven't replied, but in my head I'm still waiting for everyone to reply, then I'm not going to consider you as inactive. I'm going to consider you as
true,
maybe you don't know the answer.
but
Yeah.
I understand it. That's why I said, like, they have to use their sense
Yes.
in order, like, where they are. So if somebody replies there, I don't know, that means he probably wants you to tell him something.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Bilkul. Very simple rule. I like to put it in here, but always ask someone if you can add them before you add them, right? So because some people don't like just leaving. And so if you're making a group, and if you don't assume that everyone wants to be part of the group, so make sure you always ask, the person about it. So basically, the three things that I think that you need to ask yourself is this relevant? Is this necessary? And then, is this a good time to say what you have to say? These are the three things that you want to keep in mind when you're about to say something on any sort of platform. Like it could be posting something on Facebook or Instagram. It could be messaging something in a group on WhatsApp. Anywhere you are, ask yourself these three questions. If everyone does that, then you can imagine that there'll be less ambiguous conversations. There'll be less confusions, and there'll be less problems in general.
True. Yes, ma'am.
Inshallah, this is live on Facebook, so you can see it there. This will be recorded or has been recorded. And I will put all these notes that I've made on our WhatsApp group for you guys to have. And we can totally continue this on the WhatsApp group if you want to, continue on or give some more ideas or something. Love hearing from all of you. But inshallah, till next time, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for being here. And inshallah, speak to you all soon.
Thank you so much for your
Assalamu alaikum,
valuable time.
everyone. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Thank you.